The judge looked over his glasses at my mom and said, "Ma'am, did you or did you not text your daughter that she would be taken care of financially for watching the children?" My mom shifted in her seat and tried to smile. "I meant we'd feed her and give her a place to stay," she said. "You know, in love." The judge sighed, turned to me, and signed the order anyway. "Judgment for the plaintiff," he said. "In the amount of $7,840, plus court costs." My mom gasped. My sister's mouth fell open. I just sat there, clutching my folder full of screenshots and timesheets, and thought, I can't believe I actually billed my own mother for babysitting. And won. My name is Sarah. I'm 24. I live in Indiana, and until recently, I was my family's unpaid, full-time nanny. If you ask my mom, she'd say I'm the responsible one. That sounds nice, but in our house, responsible meant the one who gets exploited because she hates conflict. I'm the youngest of 3. My oldest brother, Adam, moved out as soon as he turned 18 and never really looked back. He lives in another state now, sends the occasional holiday card, and stays far away from family drama. My middle sister, Jenny, is the golden child. She's 2 years older than me, pretty, loud, and has always been able to spin whatever mess she creates into someone else's fault. She was the first to give my parents grandkids, which basically turned her into a minor celebrity in our family. And then there's me, the good girl. The one who never got into trouble, who helped with dishes without being asked, who babysat for $5 an hour all through high school, who everyone assumed would do the right thing no matter how much it cost her. For a while, being the good one felt fine. I liked kids. I liked helping. I thought that if I just kept being helpful, one day the universe would return the favor. Turns out the universe doesn't pay your bills. Before all this, my life was actually... I just finished my associate's degree at the community college. I was working part-time as a receptionist at a dental office while I figured out my next step. I didn't have a lot of money, but I paid my car insurance, my phone bill, and chipped in a little rent to my parents. My plan was to save for a few months, then look into going back to school for dental hygiene. Then Jenny had baby number 2. She already had a 3-year-old son, Mason, who is sweet but exhausting. When she got pregnant again, everyone pretended to be thrilled, but behind closed doors my mom said things like, "They can barely afford daycare as it is." Jenny and her husband, Troy, both worked full-time at the same warehouse. The hours were long, the pay wasn't great, and their daycare bill for Mason alone was almost as much as their rent. Still, when my niece Lily was born, there were balloons, photos, Facebook posts, the whole thing. For exactly 6 weeks, everything was so blessed and so magical. Then Jenny's maternity leave ended. That's when my problem started. It was a Wednesday night when Mom knocked on my bedroom door. "Can we talk?" she asked, in that sugary tone that always means she wants something big. I muted my Netflix and sat up. "What's up?" She perched on the edge of my bed, hands folded like she was about to offer me a job, not a trap. "You know how hard things have been for your sister," she began. "Daycare is so expensive, and they just don't have the support we had when you kids were little." I nodded, wary. "Jenny goes back to work next week," Mom continued. "They've been looking at prices, and even with the discount from the daycare where Mason goes, it would cost them over $1,200 a month to put both kids in full-time care." "That's a lot," I said. "Well," she said, smiling like she'd solved world hunger, "your father and I had an idea. What if you watch the kids? Just for a little while. Until they get back on their feet." My stomach clenched. "What do you mean, watch the kids?" I asked. "Like, every day?" "Just Monday through Friday," she said, like that was a small ask. 6 to 4:30, maybe 5. They'd drop the kids here in the morning and pick them up after work. "That's 10 hours a day," I said. 50 hours a week. "That's what the daycare does," she said quickly. "And you're so good with them. You basically raised Mason anyway." I stared at her. "I work," I said. "I have a job." Mom waved her hand. "They'll understand," she said. "You can get another job later. Family comes first, honey." There it was. The magic phrase my mother used to justify anything. Family comes first. Translation: your life is less important than your sister's convenience. "What about pay?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. Mom blinked, like the thought had never occurred to her. Well, we can't afford daycare rates, she said. But you live here rent-free. I pay you $300 a month, I interrupted. That barely covers groceries, she shot back. We'd feed you, cover utilities, gas money. And of course we'd help you out when you go back to school. So, no actual paycheck, I said. She frowned, like I was being greedy. We're not made of money, Sarah. Your sister is drowning. Are you really going to sit there and say you'd rather take phone calls at a dentist's office than help your own flesh and blood? Guilt rose in my throat like bile. I pictured Jenny juggling a baby and a toddler, exhausted, stressed. I pictured my tiny niece's chubby cheeks. I also pictured my bank account balance. Not great. I'll think about it, I said. Mom's expression hardened. What is there to think about? She snapped. You don't have kids. You don't have a mortgage. Your sister needs you. I swallowed. I need to make sure I can still afford my bills. Mom sighed dramatically and stood up. I didn't raise you to be selfish, she said. Let me know by Friday. They have to tell the daycare whether they're taking the spot for Lily. She left my room before I could respond. I sat there, staring at the closed door, and realized something. In my family, selfish meant not volunteering for unpaid labor. I caved. Of course I did. I tried to talk to my dad, hoping he'd be more reasonable. Dad, I can't work full-time for free, I said the next night. I have bills. Goals. He rubbed his temples. I get it, he said. But your mom's right about one thing. Daycare is insane. Your brother moved states. Your sister is struggling. We're all we've got. This would just be for a few months. How many months? I asked. He hesitated. Until they get some debts paid off, he said. Maybe 6. Maybe a year. I repeated. It'll go fast, he said weakly. You love the kids. Loving them and raising them are two different things. But under the combined weight of Mom's guilt, Dad's disappointment, and Jenny's teary eye, don't know what we'll do without you, I folded. Fine, I said. I'll do it. But I need something in writing that you'll help me financially. Mom's eyes flashed. You don't trust us? She demanded. I just want to be clear, I said. If I'm giving up my job, I need to know I'm not going to end up broke. After an hour of back and forth, they finally agreed to a text. Not a contract. Not a real agreement. But something. From Mom. If you watch the kids full-time until Jenny can afford daycare, we will make sure you are taken care of financially and help with your future school plans. Thank you for stepping up for the family. I screenshotted it and uploaded it to my cloud, more out of habit than a real plan. Then I quit my job. Being a full-time nanny for a 3-year-old and a newborn is not easy work. The first week, I was up at 5:30 a.m. to shower and shove some toast in my mouth before Jenny dropped the kids off at 6:15 a.m. Sorry, traffic, she'd chirp, even though she lived 8 minutes away. By 7 a.m., Mason would be demanding Bluey and cereal. By 8, Lily would need a bottle and a diaper change. The rest of the day blurred into tantrums, naps, when I was lucky, meals, spills, and auntie, look, every 3 seconds. I wasn't just watching them. I was doing everything a paid childcare worker would do. Preparing meals, teaching colors and numbers, taking them to the park, reading books, managing meltdowns. I even took a CPR refresher course on my own time. Just in case. Meanwhile, my friends were posting about promotions, grad school applications, weekend trips. I was scraping chicken nuggets off the floor. I kept telling myself, it's temporary. It's family. It'll be worth it. But as weeks turned into months, that mantra started to feel like a joke. The first time I asked for money was 2 months in. My savings account had dropped from okay to yikes. My car needed new tires, my phone bill was due, and the $50 Mom had slipped me for helping with groceries barely covered gas. One Friday night, after Jenny picked up the kids, I sat down with my parents at the kitchen table. I need to talk about finances, I said. I can't keep doing this with no income. Mom frowned. We feed you. You live here rent-free. I gave you $300 last month, I reminded her. And I've bought diapers and snacks out of my own pocket. Dad looked uncomfortable. What exactly are you asking for? He said. A paycheck, I said. Even if it's not full daycare rates. Something. Minimum wage for the hours I'm working. Mom scoffed. Your sister can't afford that, she said. Neither can we. Besides, this is good practice for when you have kids of your own. I stared at her. I'm working 50 hours a week, I said. I had a job. I left it to help because you asked. You said you'd take care of me financially. We are, Mom insisted. You have a roof over your head. That roof existed before I became your free nanny, I snapped. Silence. Dad cleared his throat. How about this, he said. When your student loans kick in, we'll help with payments. That's future money. Think long term. So I'm supposed to go broke now and hope you help me later? I said. Mom's eyes hardened. You sound very ungrateful, she said. Do you know how many girls your age would love to have a family who supports them like this? Supports me. I wanted to laugh. Instead, I stood up. I'm not asking to get rich, I said. I'm asking not to go into debt while I raise kids that aren't mine. We'll revisit this in a few months, Dad said, the conversation clearly over in his mind. Spoiler, they did not revisit it. 3 months became 6. 6 became 9. Every week, I told myself I'd bring up money again. Every week, something happened: a medical bill for Lily, an unexpected car repair for Jenny, Mom's stress headaches that made me feel like the selfish one for even thinking about myself. Meanwhile, I watched my sister's life improve thanks to my unpaid labor. With no daycare bill, she and Troy started catching up on debts. Then somehow they had extra. Look at my new phone, Jenny said one afternoon, dropping off the kids. The camera is insane. A few weeks later, we're booking a weekend at the lake. You'll have the kids, right? Mom said you didn't mind. A weekend. Alone. With a 3-year-old and a crawling baby. Without asking me first. When I hesitated, Jenny pouted. We never get time as a couple, she said. You're so good with them. And it's not like you have plans. That last part stung. Because it was true. I didn't have plans. I couldn't make any. My entire life revolved around nap schedules and snack times. The last straw came on a random Tuesday. I was cleaning up crayons when I heard my mom on the phone in the next room. She was talking to her sister, my Aunt Linda. Honestly, we're so lucky Sarah's here, Mom said. Jenny saves over $1,000 a month on daycare. And Sarah's not exactly career-driven, you know? This gives her something to do. I froze. Not career-driven. Something to do. Like my life was a hobby project, not... Aunt Linda must have said something doubtful, because Mom added, Oh, we'll help her out when she goes back to school. It all evens out in the end. I walked into the kitchen. Mom jumped. Ow! I didn't know you were right there, she said, forcing a smile. I stared at her. How much are you and Jenny saving by having me here? I asked. She blinked. I don't know, she said. We haven't done the math. I have, I said. I pulled a folded paper from my pocket. It was a printout from the daycare where Mason had gone before Lily was born. Full-time infant care, $200.60/week. Full-time toddler care, $240/week. Together, $500/week. Times roughly 4.3 weeks per month. About $2,150 a month, I said. For 9 months. That's over $19,000 worth of childcare. Mom's mouth opened. Sarah, that's not real? I said. Because that's what I've been doing. For free. She narrowed her eyes. What do you want? She demanded. A medal? No, I said. I want respect. And some of that money I saved them. She snorted. You didn't save anything, she said. You helped your family. That's what good daughters do. Something inside me snapped. Then maybe I'm done being a good daughter, I said. I walked out before she could respond. That night, I opened a spreadsheet and did what I should have done months ago. I logged every single day I'd watch the kids. Start time. End time. Notes about overnights and weekends. I still had our original text thread about the arrangement. I had messages from Jenny saying things like, Can you please keep them an extra hour? I'll make it up to you and we owe you so big. I added up the hours. Over 9 months, I had watched my nephews for approximately 120 hours. If I'd been paid even $10/hour less than what local teenagers charge for evening babysitting, I'd have made $11,200. At daycare rates, it was closer to $19,000 like I'd calculated. I stared at the number on my screen and felt physically ill. That was more than my entire yearly income at the dental office. I printed the spreadsheet. Then I did something that shocked even me. I sent an invoice. I created a simple document with my name and address at the top and theirs below. Services rendered. Full-time childcare for Mason and Lily. Dates listed. Total hours. 120 hourly rate. Discounted family rate. $7,840 at the bottom. I wrote, payment due within 30 days. If unresolved, I will explore legal options. Then I emailed it to both Jenny and my mom. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my phone. 10 minutes later, my mom called. "What the hell is this?" she demanded. "It's an invoice," I said. "A discounted one. We are not paying you to help family," she snapped. "You live here for not anymore," I said. "Starting next month, I'm moving out." Kayla's roommate left. "I'm taking over her lease." Silence. "You're moving out?" Mom whispered, like I'd just told her I was joining a cult. "Yes," I said. "And I'm done babysitting once April starts. You have 30 days to figure out childcare and pay me for what I've already done, or I'll file in small claims court." "You wouldn't dare," she hissed. "Watch me," I said, and hung up. The next few weeks were hell. My mom alternated between begging and bullying. One day she'd cry and say, "We're a family, we don't take each other to court." The next she'd snarl, "If you do this, don't bother coming back when you fail." Jenny texted me a novel. "You're insane. You love my kids and now you're trying to profit off them? Who does that to their own sister?" Troy surprisingly sent a shorter, more practical message. "Look, we can give you $500 now and another $500 in a few months. That's all we can do." I forwarded his text to my mom. "See? Even he thinks I deserve something." She didn't reply. I talked to my brother Adam, for the first time in months. When I told him what was happening, he blew up. "They did what?" he said. "Sarah, you should have called me ages ago." "I didn't want to drag you into it," I said. "You're my sister," he said. "You're not dragging me, you're finally letting me do something." He recommended I at least talk to a lawyer. "I can't afford that," I said. "Most small claims consults are cheap or free," he said. "And worst case, you go in there by yourself with your screenshots. Judges hate people who exploit family like that." So I made an appointment with a legal aid clinic downtown. The attorney, a tired-looking woman named Ms. Green, listened to my story, flipping through my stack of printouts. "The good news," she said finally, "is that you kept records. That invoice? Smart. The text where your mom says she'll take care of you financially, and your sister saying we owe you big, also helpful. Do I have a case?" I asked. She pursed her lips. "Possibly," she said. "The court might see this as an implied contract. You provided services with the expectation of compensation, and they benefited. The judge might not give you full daycare rates, but they could award something reasonable, especially given the hours." "What about it being family?" I asked. "Does that make it different?" "It makes judges more annoyed," she said dryly. "But legally, a contract is a contract. Blood doesn't cancel that." I paid the $35 filing fee with shaking hands. A week later, my mom and Jenny were served, and all hell broke loose. "You sued us?" Mom shrieked over the phone. "You actually filed a lawsuit against your own mother?" "It's small claims court, not a felony trial," I said. "I tried to handle it privately. You ignored me. We offered you a home," she cried. You fed me while I did $7,000 worth of free work," I snapped. "That's not charity, that's exploitation." Jenny was less dramatic and more vicious. "You're dead to me," she texted. "I hope you enjoy your blood money. Don't expect to ever see the kids again." That one hurt. A lot. But I reminded myself, I wasn't the one using my kids as pawns. I spent nights going over my evidence. The spreadsheet, the messages, the original "will take care of you financially" text, my bank statements showing my dwindling savings, my job resignation email that mentioned family childcare. I moved into Kayla's apartment at the beginning of April. The first morning I woke up without an alarm set for 5:30 a.m. I cried. Not because I missed the kids, though I did, desperately, but because my body finally realized it was free. Court was set for late May. Until the day before the hearing, I half expected my mom to call and say, "Fine, we'll pay, let's cancel this." She didn't. So I put on my nicest blazer, grabbed my overstuffed folder, and went to the courthouse. If you've never been to small claims court, it's basically chaos and business casual. People clutching folders, muttering under their breath. Couples arguing in whispers. A bored bailiff telling everyone to sit down and silence their phones. My mom and Jenny were already there when I walked in. Mom was in a floral dress, clutching her purse like a life raft. Jenny wore leggings and an oversized sweatshirt that said #momlife across the chest. They refused to look at me. Our case was called third. We stood on opposite sides of a cheap wooden table, facing the judge, a middle-aged man with tired eyes. Case number 23 SCF 17, Sarah Miller versus Karen Miller and Jennifer Harris, he read. Claim for unpaid child care services in the amount of $7,840. He looked up at me. Ms. Miller, you're the plaintiff? Yes, Your Honor, I said, voice shaking. And you two are the defendants? He asked my mom and sister. Mom nodded stiffly. All right, he said. Ms. Miller, you go first. Tell me what happened. I took a deep breath and told my story. Not dramatically. Just facts. How they'd ask me to quit my job to babysit full-time. How Mom had texted that they'd take care of me financially. How I'd watched the kids 50 hours a week for 9 months with no pay. How my savings had evaporated. How every attempt to discuss compensation was brushed aside. I handed over my spreadsheet, the daycare rate printout, the screenshots. The judge flipped through them, brow furrowing. Then he turned to my mom. Ms. Miller, your response? He asked. Mom launched into a speech. Your Honor, we are a close family, she began. We have always helped each other. When Sarah was sick as a child, we were there. When she needed a home after college, we offered one. We never charged her rent actually. I have records showing I paid rent until I quit my job, I interjected. The judge held up a hand. She'll get her turn, he said to Mom. Then to me you'll have a chance to respond. Mom continued, flustered. We asked her, as a favor, to help with the children, she said. Yes, I may have used the phrase take care of you financially, but I meant we would support her. She lives with us, we bought her groceries, paid the utilities. We never intended this to be a job. The judge tapped the paper. But you acknowledge you sent this text? He asked. She swallowed. Yes. And you acknowledge she quit her employment to care for the children full-time? He pressed. Yes, but and the children were with her approximately 50 hours per week, he said. Yes. He turned to Jenny. Ms. Harris, did you benefit from Ms. Miller's services? He asked. Did you avoid paying daycare costs as a result? Jenny crossed her arms. Daycare is a ripoff, she muttered. Families shouldn't charge each other. We would have watched her kids for free. The judge raised an eyebrow. Do you currently pay for daycare? He asked. Jenny hesitated. Now that she moved out, yes, she admitted. We had to. And how much does that cost? He asked. She shifted. About $480 a week. He wrote something down. Then he looked back at me. Ms. Miller, how did you arrive at the $7,840 figure? He asked. I took the total number of hours I watched the kids from my logs, I said. It came to about 1,120. I multiplied that by $7/hour less than minimum wage, less than half what daycare would have cost. He nodded slowly. What are you seeking today? He asked. Is this about the money, or are you trying to make a point? Both, I said honestly. I need the money. I gave up my job and my savings. But I needed on record that what they did wasn't okay. Something softened in his eyes. He turned back to my mom and sister. Here's the thing, he said. The court is not in the business of refereeing family drama, but we are in the business of enforcing agreements. And whether you intended it or not, you created an implied contract. He held up the text. You told her she'd be taken care of financially, he said. She relied on that, to her detriment, by leaving her job and providing full-time child care. Mom opened her mouth. He kept going. Would a reasonable person in her position assume that meant we'll let you sleep in our spare room and feed you sometimes? He asked. Or that she'd receive some form of actual compensation comparable to the value of the service? He looked at them pointedly. That was a rhetorical question, he said dryly. A few people in the gallery snorted. As for the argument that families shouldn't charge, he went on, that's a lovely sentiment when it goes both ways. Here, it seems to have gone in one direction. He shuffled his papers. I'm not going to award the full amount you're asking, he said to me. Small claims is about fairness, not exact math. But given the hours and the benefit to the defendants, I find that some compensation is warranted. My heart thudded. Therefore, he said, judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $7,000 even, plus the $35 filing fee, payable within 90 days. If unpaid, she may pursue garnishment. Mom gasped like he'd slapped her. 7,000? She cried. For babysitting? She's our daughter. The judge's expression didn't change. And you're her mother, he said. Act like it. Gavel. Outside the courtroom, the air felt thin. My mom rounded on me immediately. How could you humiliate us like that? She hissed. In front of strangers, you humiliated yourselves, I said quietly. I just told the truth. Jenny pushed past us. You'll never see my kids again, she spit out. Enjoy your blood money, Sarah. She stormed off, Troy trailing behind her with an apologetic glance. Mom followed them. My dad lingered. He'd been silent in court, sitting in the back like a ghost. Now he looked at me, shame written all over his face. I didn't think it would get this far, he said. It didn't have to, I replied. You could have stepped in months ago. He nodded once. You're right, he said. We failed you. He reached into his pocket and handed me a folded check. I know it's not everything, he said. But it's a start. I'll make sure the rest gets paid. I unfolded it later, in my car. $2,000. I cried. Not because of the money though that helped, but because, for the first time in this whole mess, one of my parents had said the words I'd needed all along. We failed you. The next few months were weird. Legally, my mom and sister had to pay. Emotionally, they acted like I'd robbed them. They scraped together $500 here, $300 there. Sometimes the payments came from my dad's account, sometimes from Jenny's, once from my grandma who didn't like how things went down but wanted to help. Every time I deposited a check, my stomach twisted. I missed my nephews. Mason used to greet me every morning with Auntie. Cereal. Lily would crawl into my lap and twirl my hair. Now, I only saw them in Facebook photos, mostly staged shots of hash mom life with long captions about doing it all on my own. Friends asked if it was worth it. Was $7,000 really worth losing your relationship with your family? One asked gently. I didn't have a neat answer. Some days, the loneliness hurt more than the financial stress had. Other days, I'd look around my tiny but mine apartment, at my new schedule that didn't revolve around nap times, and I'd think, yes, it was. Because it wasn't just about the money. It was about sending a message to them and to myself that my time has value. That I am not an unpaid intern in my own life. A few months after the court case, I ran into Troy at the grocery store. He was alone, looking tired, with Lily in the cart and Mason dragging behind asking for candy. We did the awkward "oh, hey" thing. How are you? He asked. I'm okay, I said. Working at a new office, taking a night class. You? He laughed without humor. Exhausted, he said. Daycare's killing us, but at least it's honest. We stood there for a moment. I'm sorry about everything, he said finally. Jenny was out of line. So was your mom. I should have pushed harder to pay you from the start. It wasn't all on you, I said. You tried to offer something. He nodded toward the kids. They miss you, he said. Mason still asks about Aunt Sarah sometimes. My chest ached. I miss them too, I said. I needed boundaries. He nodded slowly. I get that, he said. If you ever want to see them, I'd be okay with that. Maybe meet at a park or something. I can't promise Jenny won't lose it, but they should know you didn't abandon them. Tears pricked my eyes. Maybe, I said. When things calm down. We said goodbye. I cried in my car again. Grief is a strange thing. You can mourn relationships that aren't dead, just, the last payment came right before Christmas. A money order, no return address, for $1,035, the exact amount left on the judgment plus interest. There was no note, but I recognized my mom's handwriting on the envelope. I sat on my couch, money order in my hand, and realized something. I'd done it. I'd actually forced my family to acknowledge, in dollars and cents, that my labor had value. That may sound cold, but for someone who'd grown up being the reliable one, the helper, the background character to other people's main story, it felt Revolutionary. I deposited the money. Then I did something that felt even bigger. I registered for the dental hygiene program I'd been putting off. Tuition still scared me. Loans still loomed. But now I had a chunk of change to start with, money I'd literally earned, even if I had to drag it out of a courtroom. Will my relationship with my mom and sister ever be the same? Probably not. Do I still love them? Do I trust them? Not with my time. Not with my future. I've started to see my story differently. For a long time, I told myself that being the good daughter meant saying yes until I broke. Now I'm trying on a new definition. A good daughter tells the truth. Even when it's ugly. Even when it means standing up in court and saying, "My own mother took advantage of me." A good daughter refuses to model for future generations, my nephews, my future kids, that love equals self-sacrifice with no limits. Because if I ever have a daughter, I don't want her to think her worth is measured in how much unpaid labor she can give the people who claim to love her. So yeah, my mom forced me to babysit my nephews for free. I sent her the daycare bill in court. And I'd do it again. Because sometimes the only way to teach people your time is valuable, is to put a price tag on the hours they stole.